What if a single man tried to buy the virginity of every woman in an entire city? Not as a perverse fantasy, but as a calculated mission. Across time, rumors of such acts have flickered through ancient myth, colonial records, and modern scandal. From sacred temples of Babylon to underground brothels of Southeast Asia, the idea of commodified innocence keeps reappearing. But was it ever real? And if it was, what kind of world allowed it? It's a story too disturbing to ignore and too unbelievable to dismiss out of hand. In a quiet city, maybe ancient, maybe modern, a wealthy man allegedly paid for the virginity of every woman he could find. Whether for spiritual purification, personal indulgence, or social control, his motives remain murky. But the implications are explosive. Could such a mass transaction actually have happened? And if so, what does it reveal about our deepest cultural obsessions? The story echoes across millennia, from Herodotus's writings about Babylonian temple rites to modern-day auctions where young women sell their first time to the highest bidder. Some say it's about choice. Others see only coercion and commodification. What we do know is this: history, myth, and modern scandal have all wrestled with the unsettling idea of purchasing virginity. This isn't just a story about sex or purity. It's a story about power, belief, and the strange economics of innocence. And to understand it, we'll need to journey from ancient Mesopotamian rituals through colonial brothels to the sleek digital marketplaces of the 21st century. The Babylonian beginning, Herodotus's whisper? The oldest version of this tale comes from the father of history himself, Herodotus. Writing in the 5th century BCE, he described a disturbing ritual in Babylon. According to him, every woman, regardless of class, was required once in her life to sit outside the temple of Ishtar and offer herself sexually to a stranger. Only once this sacred act was completed could she return to ordinary life. Herodotus claimed this was a religious rite, a gift to the goddess. But modern historians like Stephanie Boudin argue that Herodotus was probably wrong, or at least wildly exaggerating. There's little archaeological evidence for such a mass ritual. Some now believe he mistook symbolic acts or misunderstood foreign customs through a Greek, patriarchal lens. Still, the image stuck, of a society that collectively enforced the commodification of female virginity as a holy obligation. Whether myth or memory, it planted the seed of a recurring legend, the virginity for sale city. Colonial brothels and the virgin premium. Fast forward 2,000 years. In the colonial empires of Spain, France, and Britain, a new kind of market for virginity emerged, one rooted not in religion, but in hierarchy and power. In New Spain, modern-day Mexico, brothels marketed virgins to elite clientele for staggering sums. But this virgin premium wasn't always what it seemed. Scholars reveal that madams often faked virginity using deceptive practices, cherry juice, sewn garments, even staged bleeding. But because the fantasy of virginity mattered more than the reality. Ironically, many wealthy clients were reluctant to pay. They saw actual virgins as inexperienced, awkward, or emotionally dangerous. The real demand came from myth, not flesh. Yet the girls, often trafficked or desperate, had no say. Their innocence was packaged, priced, and sold regardless. Here, we see the evolution, from ritual virginity to economic exploitation. The idea that a powerful man could claim multiple first times became a mark of dominance. And in this world, innocence had a market value. The modern auction house of innocence. In the 21st century, virginity went online. In 2008, Natalie Dillon, a California grad student, offered her virginity to the highest bidder. Backed by a legal brothel, she claimed to receive a $3.7 million offer. In 2012, Brazilian Catarina Migliorini did the same, allegedly accepting $780,000 from a Japanese man. These stories triggered moral panic and media frenzy. Were they real? Some details were murky, possibly fabricated for attention or profit. But the idea resonated. These weren't victims in brothels. They were educated, articulate, and media-savvy. They framed the auction as empowerment. Critics, however, weren't convinced. They saw echoes of the same old power imbalance. Men buying symbolic control, women being reduced to purity products. The modern veneer, websites, contracts, interviews, only masked the ancient pattern. One woman selling her virginity was shocking. But imagine a whole community doing it. That's where Cambodia enters the story. Cambodia's hidden market? In Phnom Penh, investigative journalists uncovered a haunting practice, the sale of virginity by impoverished families. For as little as $1,000, wealthy men, often older, often foreign, could purchase a girl's first time. Sometimes, it was a mother who arranged the sale. Sometimes, it was a trafficker. In every case, desperation drove the decision. Unlike online auctions, these weren't framed as empowerment. These were acts of survival. And they often came with lies. She's 18, they'd say, even when the girl was clearly a child. The most disturbing part? Some men believed that sex with a virgin could cure disease. Others simply wanted control. In this corner of the world, the fantasy of buying purity wasn't a myth. It was a market, dark, real, and devastating. This, perhaps, is the closest the world has come to the original question. What if someone tried to pay for every woman's virginity in a city? In Cambodia, some men tried. And some families let them. Myth, madness, and moral reckoning. So, did it ever happen? Did a man really purchase the virginity of an entire city's women? No verified case exists. Herodotus' Babylon was likely a blend of misunderstanding and fantasy. Colonial brothels never reached that scale. Even in modern contexts, the phenomenon, though real and horrifying, has limits. But here's the twist. The story keeps returning. In every era, from ancient myth to modern marketplace, the idea persists. That virginity can be bought. That purity has a price. That one man, if rich or holy or bold enough, can claim what should never be for sale. Why does this myth endure? Because it reveals uncomfortable truths about how societies police female sexuality, how wealth distorts morality, and how innocence becomes a weapon, sometimes by the state, sometimes by men, and sometimes by the very women forced to sell it. This story isn't about one man. It's about us. In the end, no man ever bought the virginity of every woman in his city. But maybe he didn't need to, because the myth itself, this recurring idea that purity can be owned, that innocence can be bought, has done enough damage across centuries. From sacred temples to neon-lit brothels to websites with bidding buttons, the commodification of virginity reflects something deeper and darker, a lingering obsession with control. Control over women's bodies, over their choices, over their past. And while some modern sellers claim empowerment, the overwhelming history points to exploitation, subtle or overt, ritualized or economic. The truth is,